As we transition, today we're going to continue our series, Broken, but Not Defeated. And, I just begin by talking about my eyes, which are broken. About 10 years ago, with a visit to my primary care physician, just a checkup kind of thing. And I asked the physician, I said, hey, is it normal for your eyes to kind of get a little blurry because you're in front of the computer so much? And he looked at me and he said, dude, you're like in your mid-40s. It has nothing to do with the computer. It's the fact that your eyes are getting older. You need to go to the local grocery store or whatever and pick up a pair of readers. And so that's what I did. I went down and actually I didn't go to a grocery store. I went to Amazon and I bought probably about a dozen pairs of readers. And if you come to my house, they're scattered all over the place because, of course, my wife needs them as well. And there's readers everywhere. But somewhere along the line, using the readers, they would get dropped, maybe get sat on, and then eventually a pair of them broke. It's just broke. I don't know if you can see that or not, so it's probably you can't. So I have the image on the side screen to see, the frame cracked. Now, I'm a fix-it kind of a guy. I'm also don't like to throw away anything that's useful, even though the glasses probably cost me about $250. I decided I could fix this, right? I could get some super glue and glue that frame back together. So that's what I did. And it lasted for about a week because, the glasses got broken or whatever. And it's kind of like right in that spot where it's not a good place. So after the super glue didn't work, I decided I'm going to take it to a new level. How about JB Weld? JB Weld, that product is supposed to hold anything together, right? And you can glue steel together with this stuff. So plastic got to be able to hold it, right? So if you look at my glasses really carefully, you can see all this JB Weld all along the outside. Now, I don't want to diminish the product. I'm sure it's pretty good, but it's probably not intended to be used on the corner of a pair of piece of plastic glasses. And so they broke about a month. They held up for a month. So I said, well, that's not too bad. I'll try it again. So I got another month out of it. And then after the third time, I finally said, this is hopeless, right? I mean, a $3 pair of glasses, Mr. Fix-It can't fix it, right? They're broken forever. It's a hopeless situation. And that's just the way that it is. Now, I share this silly little story, which it is. It's just a silly little story. But I share it because it gets at a very important point about life. And that is, in life, there are times when we experience brokenness, right? We experience hard things that break us, that break us relationally, maybe they break us financially, break us emotionally, but we end up broken. And we try to put it back together again. So a little bit like Humpty Dumpty. Remember that nursery rhyme as a kid? Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall. Right, Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men, they tried, but it was hopeless, and they couldn't put Humpty together again. That nursery rhyme taught us that in principle from a very early age. We may experience brokenness and something in life that can never be put back together again. It may have been your model car that you had spent all this time gluing all these pieces together, and the dog knocked it off the table, and your brother stepped on it, and it's just 1,000 pieces. It's never going to get put back together again. But those things, cars and dogs and stepping on your model and glasses are nothing in comparison to the deeper kinds of things in life that break us. So I'm talking about things like your marriage. Your marriage, it's hopelessly broken. Maybe so far broken that it has ended. It is ended in divorce. Or maybe you're in a marriage and it's just ice cold. It's not going. No matter how much you've invested and you keep trying, it's hopelessly broken. Or maybe it's a dating situation and you have been trying to find somebody. And you have been looking, and it has been for years. And you are at a place in which it is just hopeless. And it hurts because you long for a life mate. And you're broken. It's hopelessly broken. Or it could be your health. It could be your eyes. It could be your ears. It could be something with your legs. It could be some kind of condition that you have. It could be cancer in your body. And it's just a hopeless situation. The doctors have no solution. No solution. It's been 7 years. It's been 10 years. It's been 20 years. The situation is hopeless. And you're broken by it. It could be your kids. It could be that, again, they've broken your trust. They've broken your trust. And it's not just been once. It's not been 10 times. It's been so many times. The trust has been broken. And the relationship is fractured. And you cry out and you do everything that you can, but it's just hopeless. There's no J.B. Weld in the world that's strong enough to repair any of this. And this is just the reality of life, is it not? This is the reality of life. I know this. I've experienced it. I know you. And I know people. These scenarios are real. They're real. They're not made up stories. They're real situations. And right now, you're probably thinking of your own situation that's just broken and helpless, and you just can't put it back together again. You're just like Humpty Dumpty, and there's no way. Oh, well, this is real encouraging, right? Real encouraging, Kirk. Real encouraging. So where do we go from here? Well, this is really important for us to talk about. So today, this is what we're going to dig into. It's continuing our series, Broken But Not Defeated. Okay, so we're acknowledging that we're broken. And the title of the message is Broken by Hopelessness. I'm just hopelessly broken. There's a passage of Scripture that addresses this much the same way in which I have. In which the author, Asaph, is broken. He's hopelessly broken. He has no answers to his situation. It's Psalm 77. And so if you have a Bible, I invite you to open your Bible to Psalm 77. If you don't, you can follow on the side screens. But again, just a reminder that our series is based off of the Psalms. So we're encouraging you and inviting you to read through the book of Psalms in this series. You got the rest of the month to kind of get through the rest of the book if you've started through it. But this has been a series where we are interacting with a number of Psalms that deal with the reality that we live in a broken world, and as people, we get broken. But today is about just the hopelessness that comes from that brokenness. And so here's what Asaph says in verse 1 of his psalm. He says, I cried out to God for help. I cried out to God to hear me. When I was in distress, my glasses fell, they broke. I tried and 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 I couldn't fix them. When I was in distress, I sought the Lord. At night, I stretched out, notice this adverb he uses, or participle, untiring hands. I just keep holding them up. I keep coming back. I keep petitioning you. I keep asking. And my soul has refused to be comforted. Now, I've remembered you, O God. I've groaned, I've mused, and my spirit grew faint. Selah, which means just pause, reflect, and think for a moment. And so as we pause and reflect and think for a moment, and you look back at the words that Asaph uses, and you listen to the emotions of his heart from the experience that he has, one in which he describes as distressing, this distressing experience, we see that there are 5 ways in which he expresses calling out to God for help, right? So he says, I cried out to God. Twice he says that, right? I cried out to God. One time, it's for God to help me. The next time, it is for God to hear me. God, can you help me? God, are you listening? God, do you hear me? Do you see my situation? The next is, he says that he sought the Lord. The next is, he says, with outstretched arms and untiring arms raised up, he is seeking God. And then he ends this part of his psalm by saying that he groaned and he mused. Inside of him, he is all torn up. There's really no words, right? That's what groaning is. When you're groaning, you're in so much pain. You don't use words. You just hurt, and it's just So there may be a situation in your life that's just like Asaph, which right now that you are in distress, you are looking for help. Asaph is looking for help from God. Right? He wants God to hear his hopeless situation. He wants God to intervene in his situation, so he begs God. Right? And this isn't a begging that's just, it's a petitioning. It's not just a begging and a petitioning that happens once. It's not like he wakes up in the morning and like, God, I broke my glasses, right? Can you help me put this back together again? To be honest, I broke my glasses and I never even asked God to help me to figure out how to fix a $3 pair of glasses. Like, this is insignificant. But there are deeper things and more distressing things in life. And so Asaph, it's not just when he wakes up in the morning that he asks God for help, but it's at noon and then it's at night when he puts his head on the pillow, and then it's throughout the night, and it's day after day. And there's this sense in which Asaph's situation is so hopelessly broken. He has no solution. Everything he's tried doesn't work. And so he's just, God, do something about my situation. And he goes on with this lament, with this hopelessness, right? And he says, God, you kept my eyes from closing. And in other words, he's saying, here I am. I'm lying on my pillow at night. I'm trying to go to sleep, but I can't even go to sleep. I mean, the situation is so distressing that I don't sleep. I'm lying there and I'm reflecting. I'm replaying the words that were exchanged. I'm rethinking the way that the whole thing went down. I'm trying to come up with a solution. Like the super glue didn't work. The tape didn't work. The JB weld didn't work. There's got to be another answer. And he's struggling as he's asleep. His eyes can't close. He's wrestling. He tosses. He turns. Do you know what that's like? I know what that's like. I've been in this place. I'm sure you've been in this place too. And if you haven't been in this place, there will be a day when you will be there. When life is so hopelessly broken that's all you can do is you flip and you toss and you turn. And he says, I was too troubled to speak. Back to the groaning, right? There's no words to articulate what's going on. And then he says, I thought about the former days. I remember the past. There was a time in my life when things were good, when things were comfortable, when there were happy times, when we did smile, when life was enjoyable. But this is not a season in which life is. This is not a time. Life is, there just seems to be no joy in it. I remembered my songs in the night. Oh, I used to sing. I used to sing these hymns. I found myself this past week many times singing over and over that hymn we sung last week, What a Friend We Have in Jesus. Right? And then just reflecting on that line, oh, what needless pain we bear, all because we do not carry everything to God in prayer. And Asaph is saying, I have sung that song. I sung that song. That song has brought comfort to me. That song has brought help to me in life. But not now. Not in this situation. I remembered my songs in the night, but my heart is not helped by that anymore. My heart muses, my spirit inquired. This is an interesting way to end this little segment in which he says that inside of his heart, because of the hurt, because of the angst, because nothing is getting better, that he starts to ask questions. He begins to ponder. I think if we were to kind of summarize these first 6 verses, we would say it like this. Asaph is experiencing no hope, right? There is no hope that his distressing situation is going to change. There's just no hope. There's no hope my situation is going to change. This is where I'm at. And because of that, and because I've been talking to God and I've been asking God to get involved and God hasn't gotten involved, while I'm laying in my bed, there's questions that start to come up in my mind then. And there's six of them. Take a look at what he then says were his questions. He says in verse 7, will the Lord reject forever? Will he never show his favor again? Has his unfailing love vanished forever? Has his promise failed for all time? Has God forgotten how to be merciful? Has he, in anger, withheld his compassion? I mean, the angst within his heart, the hurt, God, where are you? And what are you doing? And why? And there's two kinds of questions that he asks, right? The first one is, will God reject me forever? And will God never show his favor again? I mean, this is that. If you want to talk about hopelessness, that's it, right? That describes hopelessness, right? Will this be forever? Will I be stuck in this situation forever? Will it never change? And has God left me in it? Has God deserted me in it? Has God left me forever in this hopeless situation? And then the second way he phrases his question is to say, has God's unfailing love vanished forever? Has God's promises failed for all time? Has God forgotten how to be merciful? Is he going to forever withhold his compassion? I mean, as I was studying this and just kind of feeling my way through this psalm, right? As I'm thinking through what it is that he's saying, and then reflecting and meditating and allowing the whole totality of me as a human being to involve myself in what he's saying, this image came to my mind of a little kid. Let's call her my little granddaughter, who's 2.5 years old. And let's just say any toddler, right? And they fall down and skin their knee, and they're crying, or maybe or he is playing with a ball, and his or her older sibling comes and pounces on them, right? And steals the ball from them, and so now they have something that they love ripped away, and they're in a terrible situation, and so the child goes running over to his or her father. And there with, looking up with hands reached out, like my granddaughter does, her hands reached out, tears coming down her face. Help me out, right? Deliver me from the situation. Please. This is Asaph, right? This is Asaph with untiring hands, groaning and musing, and God, where are you? And God, please. And there's no answer. There's no answer. There's no response. There's no getting down on the knee to look at the little one, to hold on to her, to pick her up, to save her from the situation. This is the hopelessness that Asaph is experiencing. And so if we're to take all of these 9 verses then and try and grab something from it, what would I say? I think there's four things to learn here. The first is this: there may be no hope that my situation will change, and there may be no hope that God will change my situation, and therefore, just maybe, my situation is utterly hopeless. There is no help in that, you say. There is no comfort in that. There is nothing that my situation is hopeless. I beg God to change it. God does nothing for me. I'm stuck in this hopeless situation. It's just hopeless. The first time that I remember reading this psalm was in the fall of, it's probably like October, November, December of 2000. October 21st, our son Luke was diagnosed with leukemia. October 21st, 2000, diagnosed with leukemia. And I remember that the morning that he was diagnosed, my wife said, take him to the doctor. He's got these weird symptoms. He just doesn't seem to be recovering and getting well. That morning, I remember, I distinctly remember where I was. I was in our family room, and I was reading Psalm 44. Psalm 44. And I remember at the end of reading Psalm 44 thinking, man, that psalm speaks to people who find themselves in a distressful situation. So my wife took him to the doctor, and then in the evening made this phone call. I was at home from work at this point. She was not yet returned. And she said, they think Luke has leukemia. Now, in that moment, in the days and weeks that followed, I had a choice to make. Do I run away from God because he's allowing this hopeless, horrible situation into my life, or do I run into his presence? And that was my choice. And so what I decided to do was to run towards God rather than run away from him, and to study the Psalms. And so that's what I began. I got this journal that I go back to every now and then of my study through the Psalms. I read them all. And I remember getting to Psalm 77. Actually, there's a number of Psalms that are like Psalm 77. There are many of them. Actually, the darkest one is Psalm 88. There's absolutely no hope in Psalm 88. But when I came to Psalm 77, and I read these words, they resonated with me. I said, this is exactly how I feel. God, I'm calling out to you. And so our journey was a fairly lengthy one. His diagnosis, his treatment, him getting better, him getting worse, and then never recovering and dying, and then journeying through that. Psalm 77 is just perfect. This hopeless situation. I have no hope that it's going to change. I have no hope that God is going to intervene and change the situation. I have no hope. It's just utterly hopeless. But you know what? I found help in this. I found help in knowing that I'm not alone. I'm not the only one who feels like my situation in life is hopeless. And actually, because I read through the Psalms, I saw this theme over and over and over again. There's many psalmists who are saying the same thing. My situation is hopeless. God is not intervening, so God is not helping out. Therefore, my situation left in it it's never going to get fixed. The second thing that I think we can learn from this psalm is that when we experience this hopelessness, it raises questions within us as a human being. And that's then the learning would be, it's normal. If you have questions about who God is, because your situation is not changing and you've asked him to change it, it's normal to ask questions. Again, if you read through the Psalms, you will find question after question after question after question. If you just look at all the major characters of Scripture, they all experienced these hopeless situations in which they called out to God to deliver them. And yes, there's lots of stories in which God did deliver, but there's lots of stories in which he didn't. So their situation was hopeless. And God didn't intervene. And therefore they asked these questions, these big questions. Where are you, God? And what are you doing? And if you're deserting me forever and forever and forever and for always, and where's your love and your kindness and mercy? Are you too weak? You know, what is going on? It's normal to ask questions. Normal. I found that incredibly helpful. I'm not the only guy who asks questions. I'm not the only person who's struggling with my hopeless situation. Third, it's in this reality that we actually find a little bit of hope. It's in the lament, it's in the hurt that we find a little bit of hope. You see, the formulation of all of these questions, the fact that Asaph is just struggling and asking and wrestling, there is something therapeutic about this. And asking these questions and expressing his doubts, his heart does come to a place of rest. I mean, eventually you cry so much, right, that the tears do stop. And even though his situation is broken and hopeless, he sees. You know, it's like he got a new pair of glasses. And he sees something that he didn't see before. The brokenness, his hopeless situation, enables him to see something new about God. Paul David Tripp, in an oracle that he wrote, a psalm that has no hope, he writes these words. He says, these words are dark and desperate and lacking in hope. That is, of course, depending on your definition of hope. He says, if your hope lies in experiencing pleasure, or if your hope lies in creating ideal circumstances, or if your hope is in your ability to figure out how to solve life's problems, then there's no hope here. If that's what hope is. But then he goes on and he says this. He says, the hope of these words is found precisely in the fact that they have no hope in them at all. They are words not wrapped with some cute theological bow at the end. Instead, the psalm is hopeful because of its stark honesty, its profound darkness. You see, the psalm, and here it is, the psalm reminds us that God, in whom we hope, really does understand. He does understand the most profound suffering in life. He hears with patience and mercy the most desperate cries of the human heart. He never minimizes, mischaracterizes, misunderstands, or mocks our struggle. God doesn't shush us. Shh, quiet, stop with that. You should know by now. Shh, you should trust me. Stop asking those kinds of questions. He doesn't stomp all over us and say, come on, you're to be a man of faith. You're acting like a wimp. He doesn't belittle us. Instead, he sits there and he listens to us. He allows us, like a good friend, to just pour out our hurt, to pour out our concern, to ask our questions, like a good friend would do. When you are struggling in a hard situation and trying to solve a problem, you need somebody who will just let you just talk and express and get it all out. And this is who God is. Now, when we're in this place, though, there's a question that often comes to mind, right? And the question is this: is God big enough? Is he strong enough? Can he deliver me from this situation? Or the second question is, does he love enough? Does he have enough love to help us? Now, interestingly, I ran across Psalm 62 not too long ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, and as I was reading, I was like, that says it perfectly. And I got to write this down. I got to remember this. I got to keep this in big print because it's all in one place. And Psalm 62 says this: one thing God has spoken, two things have I heard, that you, O God, are strong. And the second one is that you, O God, are loving. God is both strong and loving, all-powerful and all-loving. He hasn't forgotten. He hasn't just deserted us. No, in fact, my illustration of Kendall coming to me with her hands outstretched, Grandpa, help me in my horrible situation, it actually falls short. Because the reality is that God is there. He does listen. And the truth is, he does have the power to pick up and to actually deliver from the situation. But in fact, God leaves me there sometimes crying with my hands outstretched. It's not because he doesn't love. It's not because he's not strong enough. It's because, and that's the answer everybody wants and nobody has. We don't know why, except to say that God has an intent in allowing us in that hopeless situation and not delivering us from it. Now, as I look back at my life, I can see some really good things that have come from my hopeless situation. I would never want to live through it. It's horrible, but there's good that's come of it. Is that why? I don't know. And that's a whole other sermon. It gets into a whole other series of questions of why does God allow this to happen? It's not because he doesn't love. It's not because he's not strong enough. But we find hope in the fact that this psalmist is lamenting. Now, the final point or the final observation to take from these verses actually comes from everything that now follows. So what's interesting, and this is what captured me when I studied this many years ago, is this next phrase in verse 10. Then I thought. See, in his situation, he got these glasses. He got a new perspective, a new view. Same thing that we talked about last week. Last week it was when he came into the sanctuary. They got a new perspective. He got a new view. He saw something he didn't see before. Here, Asaph is saying, I'm seeing something new. And now I'm turning my thinking, my thoughts to God. And he says this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to appeal to God. I'm going to remind God of the past. I'm going to remind God of his great power and of his great love. I'm going to remind God of a situation, a very particular situation in our nation's history, to which God demonstrated immense love to us as people, as Israelites, and immense power. And here's what he does. He rips this off. To this I will appear the years of the right hand of the Most High, which actually, that phrase goes all the way back to Abraham. It's as though he said, like, God, you have blessed us. You've been good in so many situations. You've loved in so many situations. You've showed your power all the way through who we are as your people. I will remember the deeds of the Lord. Yes, I will remember your miracles of long ago. And sometimes we need to do this. Sometimes we need to tell ourselves, you know what? It really is true. God does have the power. He did it in the past. He can do it today. But he might not. I will remember your miracles of long ago. I will meditate on all your works and consider all your mighty deeds. Your ways, O God, are holy. What God is so great as our God? Not as though there are other gods. There are no other gods. It's just a way to say God is amazing. You are the God who performs miracles. You display your power among the peoples. With your mighty arm, you redeemed your people. There it is, his power and his love. The descendants of Jacob and Joseph. Selah. Pause. Think. Remember, God loves us. And he's all powerful. And then he says this, the waters saw you, O God. The waters, when they saw you, they writhed. The very depths were convulsed. The clouds, they poured down water. The skies, they resounded with thunder. Your arrows flashed back and forth. Your thunder was heard in the whirlwind. Your lightning lit up the world. The earth trembled and quaked. Your path led right through the sea. Big wall of water. This is the Exodus. Your way right through the mighty waters, though your footprints were not seen. You led your people like a flock by the hand of Moses and Aaron. Worship team, I'm going to invite you guys to come on up. If you are here this morning and you are feeling hopeless, your situation isn't changing, it's just broken. There's no J.B. Weld that's going to put it together. There's none. There's none. There's none. You can't fix it. It's unfixable. This is you. You're not alone. You're not alone. There's lots of people who've journeyed through that, experienced that, felt that, asked these questions, found themselves hopeless. You're not alone. Ask your questions. Struggle. Raise your hands up to God. Wrestle with it. But remind yourself of the truth. Either this is all true or it's all false. It's not partly, it's either all true or it's all false. Either everything God says in his word is true or it's all false. Everybody lives by faith. If you are not a follower of Jesus, you are struggling with these questions. This is what the world religions have come up with, is this. That's why they exist. This is why philosophies exist. Everybody's trying to figure out this question. Everybody lives by faith. Atheists live by faith. They live by faith that there's no God. They live with certainty there's no God. Every person following any world religion lives by faith, believing that faith and that God, whatever that is, or that philosophy, they live by faith. And as followers of Jesus, we live by faith too. And we've got a lot of reasons why we would hold on to that. There's a lot of historical, but probably the biggest is that Jesus claims to be God. And you know what's interesting about Jesus? God lowered himself to put himself into a position that's absolutely hopeless. Jesus was in a hopeless situation. And even asked in the hopeless situation, he asked the question, my God, why are you forsaking me? See, to what I'm speaking is this. Jesus came into the world, right? He came into the world to seek and to save the lost. He came into the world as the way, the truth, and the life. Jesus came into the world because the world is broken. And to address the brokenness, he chose to experience it. He chose to allow others to put him to death. Oh, he makes it really clear. I lay down my life. No one takes it from me. I could have called, he says in the garden, I could have called 1,000 angels. I could have delivered myself from this situation. And this is the difference between Jesus and us. He chooses the hopeless situation. He chose it for you and for me so that we could have hope. His work on the cross is what we're about to celebrate. There's bread and juice, and I invite you to come on up and receive some bread, some juice. Take it back to your seat and just take a moment to think about what Jesus did so that you can have hope. See, we don't live for today. Ultimately, we live for eternity. This world is hopeless. It's always broken. But we live for the moment when we enter his presence and we are free from brokenness. So let's just take a moment and ponder on that. So come on up, receive the bread, juice, take it back to your seat, think about it.
I
The night that Jesus was gathered with his disciples, final meal, before he experienced his death, he said, "This is my body. It's broken for you. I choose to have my body broken for you." Let's eat it together. And then he took the cup and he said, "This is my blood shed for your sins. Drink all of it." Jesus, we believe that you are God, and that as God, you are all-powerful and you are good. We thank you for your amazing act of grace, love, and compassion to take the penalty and the weight of our sin to bring us to you. Thank you for being somebody with whom we can identify. Our hopelessness you experienced. We thank you for entering into it with us. And I ask that you will provide that comfort to anyone here this morning who is in that deep, dark place today. It's in your name, pray. Amen.
Would you stand? Stand with us and let us proclaim that Christ is our firm foundation. stand when everything around me is shaking. I've never been more alive, and I put my faith in Jesus. He never let me down, faithful through generations. So I will keep him. He won't. He won't fail. He won't fail. He won't fail. He won't. He won't. He won't fail. He won't fail. He won't.
Many of you may not be in that place. Matter of fact, probably most of you are not in that place. This dark hopelessness. But you may know somebody who is. Share this with them. Share this message with them. It can be helpful to them. One of the things that we have been doing as a church over the past couple of months is creating just these little shorts of the message and been posting them online. It's crazy. I looked at some statistics this past week. So we're in more than 5,000 views of these videos. 10 different countries around the world. Random people emailing us, making comments, interacting with us. People, just people. You may know somebody, so share these truths with them. Secondly, be thankful. Be thankful for where you are in life. Be thankful for all the good that you do enjoy. And then finally, for those of you who, that's where you're at, you're in this dark, hopeless place, and you need some help, I'd be glad to talk with you. Shoot me an email, send me a text. Come find me, and we'll get you some help. So Hope Community Church, go today. May the God, who's all loving and all powerful, go with you. May you experience his presence as you live to be internally strong and externally focused this week. Have a great week.